So disappointing then.
Because it's narrow in there, isn't it?
Yeah, the unit actually won't fit in. Replacement infotainment systems. Are they as good as they're made out to be? Do they plug and play? Can I live with the change of character that a Tesla style unit would give to my car? I don't know, but let's find out. If you've ever considered upgrading the infotainment system on your Bentley Continental GT, either Gen 1 or Gen 2, then keep watching. A few weeks ago, a guy called Eric from AU Car in China contacted me because he'd seen one of the reviews I'd done on wireless FM transmitters. And he challenged me. He seemed to think that actually I was behind the times, and if I tried one of these units, all would be forgiven and I'd be very happy with it. I'm still skeptical, and I have very little technical expertise with fitting anything like this. One of the most common problems with replacing your infotainment system that I've read on forums has been around the plug and play thing, in that they actually don't plug and play. Also, that some of the car systems don't talk to the unit, and generally it's been a disappointing event for most people that have tried it that I've seen. That said, there's probably an awful lot more people who are quite happy with what they've got. So I've decided to try this product and review it for you honestly here. Liar. Reading online reviews kind of put me off because I could see people were having a lot of difficulty actually getting them to communicate with the car. And a lot of the functions didn't seem to work, or at least problematic, until you bought all the right microfilters and everything else. Now, although I'm experienced in a lot of things, in-car entertainment is one of them. So perhaps you'll think me foolish to have a go at doing this myself, but that's exactly what I'm going to do. I figure that if you're sent something in a box which is called plug and play, it's meant to sound easy to fit. So we're going to find out whether that's the case, or whether I get into a hopeless mess and have to call in an expert. Follow me to find out how I got on. So, exciting day. The parcel has arrived from China, and we're going to unbox it and see what we've got. So this firm from China reached out to me a couple of months ago to see if I would be interested in reviewing their product, because they'd seen one of my videos online and thought they could do a better job of creating something that changed the infotainment system on the Bentley. The first impressions are really excellent. Even the box is branded, and it's for this particular vehicle, which is really nice. And inside we've got some instructions. See what we've got here. That looks pretty good, that. Look at that. Proper user manual. I'll have to dig through there in a bit. And even a SIM card adapter. That's good news. So the installation instructions that come with it actually detail all of the bits that come with the kit. And quite impressed to see that not only does it have a diagram for the wiring on the 2005 to 2012 Gen 1s, as you go further along, it's also got the harness specifications for the Gen 2s, which I didn't realise it did. Also rather handy, it details the factory connections at the back of the infotainment unit, so when you're referring to it, you know what you're thinking about. Now to the really exciting bit, let's unveil what you get. Nicely protected and packaged. I may have to put the camera down for a second to do this. Yeah, so I'm officially impressed already. They actually asked for photographs of my dash to match in the fascia colours, and it looks to me like they've done a great job. Well, nobody goes in the car. So this is the unit itself, actually quite heavy. Underneath that in the box, you've got the rest of the fitting kit, which is a serious amount of cable, obviously covering both Gen 1 and Gen 2 vehicles. I'm not sure what that is. So first impressions then, really impressed with the packaging, impressed with the level of detail that's gone into this, and surprised to see as many cables as we've got here. I think it's going to be interesting times, but it looks like they've thought about everything that you need. I guess the proof of the pudding's in the eating. So when we've had a good study of these, we'll get on and see if we can fit it to the car. So when you start unpacking all the wires and cables, yeah, that's when it starts getting really interesting.
Oh jeez.
So we have a whole load of stuff here, and at first it seems a bit off-putting and daunting, but actually I've just been sat having a cup of tea and reading all of the documents that came with it. This one is the new unit, and it shows all the connection points for everything, and along the way I've been able to identify everything in this list. There are two main wiring sets, looms. One is for the 2013 to 2019, and that one is this one here with the black plugs both sides, and the other one, which is number 12, is actually here with the green plug. So that's for 2005 to 2012. You've also got a pair of, these are 4G antenna signal plugs. There's actually two of those that come with the kit, and two are connected to the unit, obviously to give you the maximum amount of coverage. And then you've got a GPS receiver, which is that. An external microphone. This is an external SIM card connector, so you can poke this through your glove box, I'm guessing, and you can actually put a SIM card in there so your car is connected to the internet. Then you've got your RCA connectors, which deal with your audio, and you've got a dual outlet, or inlet really, USB connector that plugs into the unit, and again you can poke this through into your glove box, I'm guessing. We'll find out when I try it. But then there was this, and I couldn't really figure out what that was until I took a really good look at it. Turns out it actually comes with a reversing camera, so that's pretty cool. My car hasn't got one, so yeah, definitely be trying that on. I has yet to identify this one. It's not actually on here, but it may be that it's part of the antenna connection, because that obviously looks like a standard connection for an antenna, but the other end, it almost looks like optical fibre, which is a bit strange, but I guess we'll find out what that is as we go along. Just a note for the manufacturer, what would be really useful in identifying these would be that if you used the serial numbers on the actual items in the description somewhere. And it might seem like overkill because I've been able to find out what these were, but in the case of this one, for example, since I don't know what it is, I'm going to have to do a bit of a Google search to find out. I found out that the item in the box is actually a sonic filter for the earlier models. So, this was a lot of fun. Actually a lot easier than you might think. The guide up here, you don't know whether there's wires coming from the car or not, but no, it's all the loom that comes with the kit. And it's simply a matter of identifying each component and plugging them into the right places. If you follow that, you can't really go too far wrong. The process is supposed to be fairly simple. Essentially what you have to do to start with is connect the wiring harness that's supplied together to the proper connectors for your car, whether that's a Gen 1 or a Gen 2. Next, we have to remove the existing infotainment system, and the tools that we're going to use for these are these proprietary plastic levers and clips and a Torx screwdriver set with the appropriate sized bits. Apparently it's very straightforward, but let's find out. Once we've levered the front fascia out of the way, we need to disconnect the clock and the temperature controls. When you're doing this, it's a good idea to put a cloth above on the leather so that the unit doesn't actually scratch it. Then we can get to it reasonably easy. Once the fascia is out of the way, we need to remove these 4 Torx screws, one in each corner of the unit. Once the fascia is out of the way, we need to remove these 4 Torx screws, one in each corner of the unit. After this, I put the car into neutral, the engine obviously wasn't running, and laid another one of my cloths over the fascia for the gear control section and pulled the unit forward so I could inspect the wires. With the wires safely disconnected, I removed the unit and put it somewhere safe. So disappointing then.
It's narrow in there, isn't it?
Yeah, the unit actually won't fit in, and some of the fixings that we have on the replacement unit are not as widely spaced as the originals. You would have to change over your heating ducts and the vents, which is no big deal, it's only a few screws, but it just is not going to fit. It doesn't fit width-wise and it doesn't fit height-wise. That's a shame. So the problem is with the unit at the bottom, when you look at where the connectors are at the top, they're way above, they're actually on these air vents. So at this point, it seemed like we had a bit of a problem. I wasn't sure that this was the right unit at all. There were some differences. It seemed like it wouldn't fit in the gap. The screws that usually fitted the old infotainment system in weren't long enough to reach through to attach the brackets that came with the kit. And also I noticed that the fascia itself had a difference. Where there's a temperature button on the pre-facelift models, this has been replaced by an airbag light for the passenger side. And I was just a bit concerned about plugging any of this in if it was the wrong model. So I quickly got on to Eric from Orcar, and a day later I got this really helpful reply. He sent me an email with links to all of the questions that I had about it, and he assured me that it would in fact fit. I always tell my customers that you never really find out how good a company is until something goes wrong. And in this case, Orcar came right through with the goods. After that quick email to Eric, I quickly went through the information that he'd give me, including some video links, which were really helpful. And I got the feeling that any customer would be treated in the same way. That gave me a lot of confidence about the firm. So I went back and had another go. The first thing I had to do was remove all of the infotainment system like I had the day before.
It's not the end of the world.
So I got cracking and took the infotainment system out again. It took a lot less time this time because I was familiar with what I was doing. I felt better prepared to carry on with the job and more confident. I checked out all the ancillary leads that I was going to need to fit in areas that might be a little bit more difficult. For example, the USB connectors. You get 2 with this, and they're on fly leads, so you can mount them pretty much wherever you want. But as I looked through the dash and into the glove box, I thought I might interfere with the hinge if I put them in that position. So I went for a more straightforward approach with it. It may not look as good, but I can tuck them out of the way, and I'm quite happy with that. The kit came supplied with everything you would need to connect the car to the internet, including an adapter for a SIM card, which would be fitted remotely, perhaps in your glove box or somewhere else, an exterior microphone, 4G aerials ×2, and a GPS aerial. In my case, I decided I wasn't going to connect the car to the internet. I was just going to use my telephone as a hotspot, which is one of the features on this heads-up display. I decided I wasn't going to connect to the internet using a SIM card. I don't see the point in having a second one. I don't use the card that often, and it didn't really make any difference to me because I can use my mobile phone as a mobile hotspot for any maps streaming music and anything else that I wanted. So for anyone who's never actually done any fishing, and that's what electricians call it, you use a wire which is easier to control to get through to the point that you then connect up the cabling that you want to pass through the hole, and as long as it isn't too fat, hopefully we'll be able to get up there, and we'll see in a minute. Be really careful you don't just try yanking it, so it'll break the connection. And success. So that's the first one fished. That means I'm going to have these USB stick connections coming out of that side panel, which isn't ideal. It's not really where I wanted them, but at least it's handy, and I'll figure out where I can tuck them around later. This made the installation job far easier for me, because all I basically connected were the fly leads with the two USB adapters. That means I can plug in a thumbstick, a thumb drive, with music or videos on, and I can enjoy it and change it over when I want without any data charges. I am an honorary Yorkshireman. I've decided for the microphone what I'm going to do is actually come down the right hand side into the driver's side, and then I'm going to bring it up under the fuse knee roll panel and have it clipped around here and see if that's any good. So we're going to use our little fishing wire again to get up behind the dash. Doing the job for the second time was a great deal easier than the first, and actually I felt much more confident about it. One of the more difficult jobs is connecting up all the electrics when you've got everything else fitted. Most of them are okay, but the one that's quite difficult to get to is the clock, because you can't angle it out like previously with all of the other connections in place. Something that's hopefully not a massive issue but still needs to be considered is that there are a few bits that you need to swap between the units. So this is my old fascia panel, and obviously the heating vents and controls are actually still attached to it. So we need to remove 4 fixings in order to get that out and swap it over. Another point worth mentioning, on the pre-facelift Gen 1s, the button on the front for the temperature control was removed and became an airbag warning light for the passenger side, I think. Well, on the fascia that's supplied by a car, they have the more modern look. Now that means these buttons disappear and the controls for the heating are now on the screen. These actually look a lot more awkward than they are. Doesn't look like you're going to get in, but you can, even with the basic tools that I'm using here. Heaven forbid I should make anything easier myself. Finally, when you've got the screws out, you've got to remove the organ knobs. These just twist off to unscrew. And you're done. Oh yeah. So your clock and everything else should just lift off now. There you go. I'm actually going to take this opportunity to give this a little bit of clean out. For some reason there's some curious white powder. Can't imagine what that might be. So they actually supplied different screws to fix this binnacle back in. Which I guess makes sense. But I will be keeping the old ones just in case. Okay, so that's that fixed. So this is the new fascia unit, complete with the heating vents and clock. The process of swapping that over literally took less than 5 minutes. Would have been quicker if I'd realised sooner that they'd actually sent new fixings for it. But yeah, so the next job is to see exactly how this fastens in. I noticed that the prongs that you can see there and there that go into these two holes are actually slightly longer on this unit, and I imagine that's because they're sitting it further out from the fascia. Now it does come supplied with 2 plastic brackets, which I'm guessing, because it doesn't say so, but I guess they fit through the original fixing screw holes that the radio was secured in with. So we'll have a look and see. Okay, so these brackets are supplied, and these brackets fix on to the original fixing points, or as far as I can tell they will, and then there are slots in this bracket which correspond to these clips in the side of there. Now when I'm looking at that, that actually appears level, even though the unit itself goes fat to thin along its length. If you look at it, it's actually thicker at the top than it is at the bottom. And importantly, these slots need to be flat here because those clips won't penetrate far enough in otherwise. If you had them that way around, it's just a whacking great hole. Now unfortunately, these brackets screws, sorry, the brackets are taking the screws too far off to actually connect in. So I'm going to have to go and get some longer screws from the hardware shop. I'll take one of these with me and I'll be back in a jiffy. So fresh back from the hardware shop, good old Berryman and Chapman's. I bought these soft tapping screws and some washers because I couldn't get panhead screws and I couldn't get Torx. So I fitted the first one on and it's nice and solid. We'll just get the second one fitted and then we'll try the unit against it and see if it works. It worked really well, and this is how I connected it. Once I'd got the brackets in place, the next job was to start connecting up all the electronics. So this is the loom from the kit which I put together as per the instructions. What we're going to do now is marry up the original connectors from the vehicle with the connectors for this head unit. See how we get on. This green one is fairly straightforward. You see that locks down when the pins are in place, so you know it's a good connection. If you need to get it off, then you've got to take that clip there above that clip and then it'll release. Then we connect the main power and the speaker cables, which are these 2 blocks here, and they're pretty straightforward. Just clicks in over that end. And there you go, that's that done, good. Now the instructions suggest that on the original wiring these are both for the radio aerial, but I'm going to take an educated guess as this feels more like coax than that. I think that's something more to do with power of it, but we'll find out what we do with that in a minute. For now we've got to connect this adapter here into that one. So we're at the tricky part where we need to connect all of these wires into the appropriate ports. Now if you've connected this loom back at home on a table where it's nice and comfy and you get it alright, then I think you deserve full marks for that, because it would have been a nightmare to do it here. Obviously I'm fitting this on a 2005, so some of these sockets and pins actually don't matter to me, and it does say so on there, 2013 to 19, especially Gen 2. But everything else is relatively straightforward. The only problem I've got is I'm colour deficient and there's some discordant colours on these lines, so it takes a little bit. In fact, it's easier to see on the camera than it is with my own eyes. That's useful. So I've got most of them connected up. There are two which I can't actually reach just yet, which is the main power, and this is the reversing camera if fitted. And then the last little task is to get the clock reconnected and try my best not to nip this old temperature control cable here, so I'll probably tie that up out of the way. Here it goes. This went reasonably well. I thought the only one that was difficult to get to after all the other connections were made was actually for the clock, but this was still possible. To get the infotainment system and fascia back in place, you need to insert the two top fasteners at the very top of the unit, and then it bends down into place. You've got to make sure that your gear selector is far enough forward for you to be able to do this. Basically, it goes in from the top and it rocks down, and all the clips are actually in place, and it was spot on, went straight in. It surprised me. Okay, so it feels like the clips all lined up. We all got back in place. I was a little bit worried actually pushing it in. Didn't want to put too much pressure on. It's a really good idea to have that cloth there though. I think while I was trying to get the clock plug put back in, I was wiggling it backwards and forwards, and if that had just been on the wood, I think I would have knackered it. So that was a good tip. And we'll see if we can get this thing working then. Oh, we have something happening. Oh, this is where you need to read the instructions, I guess. I imagine the operating system is starting. Oh, look. Lots of things happening. Got internet. Some unknown music. Well, let's look for radio. So it's automatically looking for stations. Hi, so I've installed the all-car head unit, the infotainment system, and I'm really impressed with it actually. It's connecting to my phone as we speak, and when it's connected I'm going to be able to do things like search the internet. I use Google Maps, I use all the things that I have on my phone I can use in my car now, which does make it a lot easier, and the fact that it automatically connects is a real boon. The other thing I've done is I've loaded a USB stick with some tunes that I like from my computer, which I've taken off CDs that I bought, and I've got a fairly good record collection in there. So this is the quality of the sound. I can't play too much of the track, otherwise I'll get in trouble for copyright infringements, but I can tell you that the quality of the sound is actually very good, and the convenience of it is unsurpassed. I mean, just automatically there, every record you'd ever want. So yeah, very good, impressed with that. There are other features on the system which I'm just exploring now, and I'm getting used to using the interface, which at first seems a bit complicated, but you soon get used to it. And yeah, it's like getting a new phone and getting used to a new phone. It's basically the same sort of thing, really. Good stuff. Unfortunately, owing to copyright protection, I'll probably get my channel cancelled for having too much of a particular artist's music on. But I can tell you that actually, in respect of using USB connectivity, to get hold of your music collection if you don't want to be using data charges from your phone. And it's really very effective. Plugged it straight in, went to music at the top, and it was already loaded up and ready to play. But we'll have a look at how the file system operates so you can choose between the different albums that I've got on there. So switching between tracks on your USB drive, dead easy. You can see everything on one big screen. It's brilliant. Love it. I know I'm sounding like a caveman or a little country mouse going to the big city, but yeah, I don't mind that. It's really good. I'm going to try video a little later on. Crank this up a bit. Some idea of the sound. That's pretty good. I've had systems with better bass, but that's basically the equipment that comes in the vehicle. And the best I ever had was actually JBL. It was even better than the one in the Range Rover. Sorry for being bounced around a little bit. Get onto some straight road soon and things should calm down a bit. Interestingly, I'm having a go with a new mobile phone connection bracket today. First appearance has seen that it's a little bit bouncy, and I'll have to have a look and think how I can make it a little smoother for you. But this is living with a Bentley Continental. I came to it, I haven't been in it for 4 or 5 days. It's been really cold and rainy. We just had record rain, and she started absolutely no problem. No issues at all, no water on any carpets or anything. So I was wondering how I could access information about the car, and it's in the app section, and it's called Car Settings. I'll press that, and we've got things like the fuel consumption. Actually, really cool, it's telling me the cell voltage in the battery, so the charge state and everything, and other information like that. One really nice thing is this is where you can access your CD player. That's a bit of a bonus. I thought I'd lost that. Rather nice. Tyre pressure information. Yeah, well, my TPMS has never worked, so I wouldn't expect it to work now. So the big question is, what do I think about this infotainment system? As you know, I was pretty much dead set against them when I started this. That's how I got into it in the first place. But actually, driving home last night in the dark with this great screen on and the map showing and the music quality, by the way, seems better than it used to be when it was just a normal infotainment system. I don't know how that could be, but there is an inbuilt graphic equalizer, and I had a little play with that. So it's horses to courses depending on what you like, but there are about 8 presets from rock, jazz, classical music, voice. So yeah, really good. And actually, it did feel like a much more modern car, which just goes to show you how good the rest of the car is. As for dealing with OCR, yeah, I would have no qualms at all. The response time to my query was excellent. The equipment seems very good. I mean, time will tell, obviously, but they seem to have thought of everything that you would need to do in order to fit this without any great problems. Is it a job for a DIYer? Well, yeah, I'm a DIYer. All right, I'm a plumber and I'm a qualified tradesman, but that doesn't mean to say I could go around fitting infotainment systems. So yeah, when I pushed it home and turned the ignition on and it lit up, I was actually quite surprised it was working because I'd done it. But it did work, and it worked seamlessly, no problem at all. One of the difficult things was getting my phone to attach to it because my phone isn't terribly good. But there's a feature on there called Auto Car, which creates a wireless hotspot out of your phone. And so every time I go near the car now, it automatically connects this. And it's really helpful. There's no more turning things on and pressing play. It actually just takes off where you left off, and that's really good. Value for money? Yeah, do you know what? This is the price of an air strut, and it's completely changed the way I feel about the car. I didn't expect it to, not in any way, really, but it has. I like the old style, but somehow the way that they've done this surround, it doesn't look too far out of place, and I like it, yeah, so it's a thumbs up from Nige. Well done, Ocar. Good job. Now, I can only comment from my own experience, and I've only fitted one. If you can comment on anything that you fitted, whether you think it's better or worse, or whether you experienced any problems when you were upgrading your infotainment system, and please put them in the comments below. It'd be really helpful for everybody else who's looking at this video. I'm going to put details in the description about how you can get your own system, and if you've got any questions for me after you've got it, then please get in touch. I'm always here to help. If this video has been useful to you, then I'd really appreciate your likes, your comments, and of course if you could subscribe, that would be amazing too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. And I nearly forgot, sorry, there are a host of features available on this equipment, and I don't understand many of them. I'm enjoying what I do know, but as I unpick it, I'm going to make another video about what you can actually do with this system and why it makes life so much easier. Installation is pretty straightforward. All the screw holes line up and they're the right size threads. Good. It's definitely